Welcome to our deep dive. Today we're looking at Enneagram Type 6, sometimes called the Loyalist or the Skeptic.
Okay.
You send us 2 articles from the Spiritual Seek all about Type 6, and we're here to break it all down,
Yeah.
help you understand this typic.
Sounds good.
We want to figure out, what are their main characteristics? What makes them tick?
Yeah.
What are their strong points and their weaknesses?
Right.
What are their struggles?
Yeah.
How do they act in relationships? And just out in the world in general. And we'll see if these articles offer any advice
Okay.
for Type 6 individuals who are looking to grow.
The Enneagram is just such a great tool, isn't it?
It is.
For understanding yourself and others. It helps us look beyond just the surface level
Right.
and really get those core motivations that drive us.
It's fascinating.
It is.
So both of these articles describe Type 6 as very focused on security
Yeah.
and support. That's a big thing for them.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder why.
Well, that need for security,
Yeah.
It usually comes from this deep fear. Okay.
Of not having guidance or support. And so that can manifest in a lot of different ways.
So how?
Like anxiety, overthinking, and a constant need for reassurance.
So it can be pretty tough.
It can be.
I noticed the Enneagram Institute article mentioned 2 subtypes.
Okay.
For Type 6.
Yes.
The phobic 6 and then the counterphobic.
Yes.
And it seems like both subtypes experience fear,
They do.
but they express it so differently.
Very differently.
So tell me about that.
Yeah. So the phobic 6 will tend to kind of withdraw and avoid confrontation, almost try to disappear into the background.
Oh, wow.
Whereas the counterphobic 6 might actually seem more rebellious
Okay.
or defiant. They're overcompensating for that underlying fear.
They're trying to prove something.
Yeah, they're trying to convince themselves and others that they're not afraid.
It's interesting.
It can be really confusing for people who don't get that.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that both articles emphasized over and over
Was the loyalty of 6s.
Yeah, definitely a core characteristic.
Yeah, that really stood out to me.
And it's not just loyalty to people. It's to ideas, systems, institutions, anything that they trust, anything that feels like it gives them structure and predictability.
It's like they want to belong to something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, they find comfort in aligning themselves with something they trust.
The True You Journal gave a really interesting example.
Okay.
They talked about the survivalist archetype.
Right.
And how that aligns with 6s.
Okay.
Because their whole thing is planning and preparing for disasters.
Right.
Which really connects with that Type 6 desire for security and control.
Yeah. It illustrates that core need perfectly. But it's important to remember, this isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
This need for security can be a really good thing, too.
In what way?
Well, when you think about it, 6s are known for being really reliable and hardworking. They're super responsible, trustworthy. They'll go the extra mile because they're committed.
They don't mess around.
No, they don't. They're the people you can depend on.
And they're always on the lookout for problems.
Yeah.
So they can really troubleshoot things.
Exactly. They're anticipating problems and they're preventing them before they happen.
So valuable.
It's a valuable skill.
In a team or any organization.
Definitely. They're natural problem solvers.
So we've talked about the good things.
Yeah.
But every Enneagram type has weaknesses too.
Of course.
So what are some of the downsides?
Well, like you said, they're very driven by a need for security.
Right.
And that can be a good thing, but it can also hold them back.
Okay.
The Enneagram Institute describes 6s as like a ping pong ball constantly shuttling back and forth between influences.
Right.
Because they just struggle to trust their own inner voice.
Well, they're always looking outward.
Yeah, constantly looking for external reassurance and direction.
It's almost like they don't trust their own judgment.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
And that can lead to them just being stuck.
Yeah. Indecisiveness, procrastination, overthinking, analysis paralysis.
The True You Journal had a really interesting point.
Oh, yeah.
They said that 6s can sometimes fall into a pattern of creating self-fulfilling prophecies.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because they worry so much about something bad happening that their anxiety actually makes it happen.
Yes. They can get so focused on what could go wrong that they actually bring about that very thing.
It's so important for them to learn to manage that anxiety.
It is.
And build that self-trust.
Self-awareness is so crucial for 6s.
I think it's crucial for everyone.
It is.
But for 6s in particular.
Yeah. The more they understand their own patterns, the better they'll be able to work through those challenges.
The Enneagram Institute talks about the levels of development.
Yeah.
So 6s, at their healthiest, can be courageous,
Right.
independent, and
Right.
self-affirming.
Absolutely.
But at their unhealthiest,
Yeah.
they might be paranoid, suspicious,
Right.
even self-destructive.
It's a big difference.
It really shows you how important it is to work on yourself.
I think the main takeaway
Yeah.
is that the Enneagram is a tool
A tool for what?
for growth
Okay.
and understanding, not a box.
It's the label.
Not a label.
We're not trying to put anyone in a box.
It's about recognizing the patterns
right.
and then making better choices.
Using the information
Yeah.
to improve your life
Exactly.
and the lives of those around you.
And also about appreciating what makes each type unique.
Yeah.
You know, they all bring something special.
We've talked about motivations and strengths. What about relationships?
Well, one of the biggest things to remember about sixes is that they really value connection and belonging.
Right.
They want to feel like they're part of a group.
Yeah.
And they have this fear of abandonment, which can actually make them incredibly loyal and devoted partners and friends.
That makes sense.
They're the ones who are always there for you.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, but that intensity,
Right.
it can have its downsides.
Yeah, like what?
Well, the True Year Journal talks about how sixes can become too dependent on their loved ones,
Okay.
always seeking reassurance and support.
It's that fear of being alone again.
Yeah, exactly. That fear creeping back in.
And that can cause problems in a relationship.
For sure, if they're not careful.
They need to find that sense of security from within,
Yeah,
not just from other people.
exactly.
Both of the articles had some advice for people who are in relationships with sixes.
Oh, interesting. What did they say?
The True You Journal said it's good to set boundaries
Boundaries around what?
around the worrying
Right.
and to encourage the sixes to take care of themselves,
Yeah.
like doing things for their own well-being.
Self-care.
Yeah, self-care.
That's a good one.
So it's about finding a good balance
Balance between what?
between being supportive
Okay.
and encouraging their independence,
Right.
because their anxieties might not always be rational.
Yeah, they might not be.
It's not always based on logic.
Not necessarily.
The True You Journal also talked about how sixes relate to other Enneagram types.
Oh, that's always interesting.
Yeah, one pairing they talked about was the 6 with a type 2,
Okay, the helper.
right, the helper. And they said that can be a nurturing,
It can be.
and supportive relationship,
Yeah.
but there's a potential for codependency
Oh, interesting.
if both partners aren't careful,
Right.
because the 6 might always be looking for reassurance,
Yeah.
and the 2 wants to feel needed.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
It takes work.
They also talked about the 6 with a type 8,
The challenger.
the challenger.
Interesting.
It seems kind of unlikely on the surface,
It does?
but they said it can work really well
How so?
because the 8's strength and assertiveness
Right.
can make the 6 feel secure,
Okay.
and the 6's loyalty and attention to detail
Right.
can help ground the 8,
Oh, I see.
who could be a little impulsive.
It can be.
Opposites attract,
Opposites attract.
but in a way that actually works.
In a good way.
It's fascinating how the Enneagram helps us understand
And
these dynamics.
It really does. By understanding those core motivations and fears,
Yeah.
we can really start to get those complexities of human relationships.
So we've looked at motivations,
Yeah.
strengths,
Yeah.
weaknesses,
Yep.
and how 6s show up in relationships.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
What stood out to you?
What stands out to me is just how different
Mm-hmm.
people can be,
Right?
even within the same type.
Yes.
We talked about those subtypes,
Yeah.
phobic and
Yeah.
counterphobic,
Yeah.
but even within those,
Yeah.
there's so much variation.
It's a reminder that these are just starting points.
Yeah.
The real journey is applying this to your own life.
And thinking about,
Yes.
how does this resonate with me?
Right.
How does this help me understand myself?
Exactly.
How does this help me understand other people?
It's about self-discovery
Yeah.
and growth.
Not about putting yourself or other people in a box. Absolutely.
So let's talk about growth.
Okay.
What advice do these articles give
Mhm.
for type 6 individuals who are looking to thrive?
Well, one theme that comes up a lot is the idea of facing your fears
Okay.
instead of trying to avoid them.
That makes sense.
It does.
It is. The Enneagram Institute put it really well. They said, when they learn to face their anxieties, 6s understand that although the world is always changing and is by nature uncertain, they can be serene and courageous in any circumstance.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
It's like true security doesn't come from outside sources.
It comes from within.
It comes from facing what you're afraid of.
Exactly.
That's scary.
It can be.
What kind of practical tips did they give?
Oh, they had a lot.
Okay.
They talked about mindfulness, challenging negative thoughts, finding activities that promote relaxation and well-being.
So just taking care of yourself.
Basically.
Yeah. The True You Journal really emphasized self-care for sixes.
I bet.
They suggested things like journaling, meditation, exercise.
All good things.
Things that help them connect with their body and release stress.
And be kind to themselves.
Self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yeah, it's so important for sixes.
It is. They can be really hard on themselves.
They can.
So yeah, self-acceptance is the foundation.
For growth and change.
It is. You know what's interesting? Both articles mention some famous people who are thought to be type 6s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it helps to kind of put a face to the type.
I like that.
Yeah.
Who did they mention?
Well, in politics, there's Richard Nixon, George H.W. Bush, and even Joe Biden.
Wow. That's a pretty wide range.
It is, isn't it?
Politically, I mean.
Yeah, it shows you how the Enneagram goes beyond those labels.
Right. It's not about left or right.
Exactly. It's about those deeper motivations.
So what about entertainment?
Oh, they had some good ones there, too.
Okay.
Like Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, Jennifer Aniston.
Those are all very likable people.
They are, aren't they?
Very relatable.
Yeah. And that fits with the six's desire to connect and their tendency to be people pleasers.
It makes sense that they might be drawn to those kinds of professions.
Yeah, where they can connect with others.
The True You Journal also mentions some fictional characters.
Oh, yeah, like who?
Like Ron Weasley from Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah.
And Dwight Schrute from The Office.
Those are good ones.
Yeah, I could see it.
Ron's always anxious.
He is.
Always needing reassurance.
Classic 6.
And Dwight's obsessed with rules and procedures.
Oh, totally. Structure and security.
Exactly.
It's so fun to see how these characters bring the types to life.
It is. It reminds us that there's no one right way to be any type.
Right. Everyone expresses it differently.
It's about those underlying patterns.
Both articles gave a lot of advice for 6s.
Yeah, they did. What are some of the main things they said?
They talked a lot about self-awareness.
Of course.
Like the more you understand yourself, the better you'll be able to handle your challenges.
Yeah. The Enneagram Institute suggested practicing mindfulness.
Yeah, to notice those anxieties.
Yeah, as they come up.
Not to judge yourself.
Right, just to observe.
The True You Journal said it's good to challenge your negative thoughts.
Oh, yeah. 6s can get stuck in those loops.
Totally. Worrying about the worst-case scenario.
And those thoughts can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah, if you're always expecting the worst,
right,
you might actually make it happen.
So it's about reframing those thoughts.
Yeah, focusing on the good things that can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
They also both talked about finding healthy ways to deal with anxiety.
Yeah, that's important for everyone.
But especially for 6s.
Yeah, with their tendency to worry.
Did they give any specific examples?
Oh, yeah. Like exercise, meditation, spending time in nature, doing something creative.
So just finding what works for you?
Yeah, and making it a habit.
Like a self-care routine.
Taking care of yourself is so important.
It is for everyone.
Yeah, but especially for 6s.
What about relationships?
Oh, yeah. The True You Journal had some advice for people who are in relationships with 6s.
What did they say?
Well, they said it's important to set healthy boundaries around worry.
Yeah, don't let it take over.
Exactly, and encourage self-care and foster trust and independence.
It's a balance, isn't it?
It is.
Between supporting them, but also letting them figure things out for themselves.
Exact.
And remembering that their anxieties might not always make sense.
Right. Sometimes they're just scared.
It's about being patient.
It is.
And understanding.
Empathy goes a long way.
It does.
So, yeah, we talked about self-awareness, managing anxiety, navigating relationships. What about careers?
Oh, that's a good one. What did they say about that?
Well, they both said it's important for 6s to find jobs that feel secure and stable.
Okay.
You know, places where they have clear expectations,
Yeah.
well-defined structures,
Right.
supportive colleagues.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do well in chaos.
No, not at all.
Oh.
It would trigger their anxiety.
So they need to be mindful of their work environment.
Did they say anything about the challenges 6s might face in their careers?
Yeah, they did. They said that 6s might struggle with things like self-promotion.
Oh, yeah.
Or taking risks.
That makes sense.
Which could hold them back.
Yeah.
From getting ahead.
So what can they do about that?
Well, the True You Journal suggested focusing on building their skills
Okay.
and becoming an expert.
So they feel more confident.
Yeah, and more credible.
That ties into their strengths.
It does. They're hard workers.
They are.
They like to learn.
They also said it can be helpful to find a mentor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone to guide them.
Yeah. Or supportive colleagues.
Support is so important for sixes.
In all areas of life.
It is.
What about challenges in their personal lives?
Well, one big one is their tendency to overthink and worry.
Yeah, we've talked about
They
that.
can cause a lot of stress.
For them,
And for their loved ones.
they might be constantly asking for reassurance.
Yeah.
Which can get old. It goes back to that fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
That need for validation.
The True You Journal said it's important for sixes
Yeah.
to learn to trust themselves,
Okay.
to communicate their needs.
Clearly and directly.
Yeah.
Instead of bottling things up.
Or being passive-aggressive.
Right.
They need to learn to be vulnerable
Yeah.
and to trust.
That's hard for sixes.
It is.
But it's essential.
For intimacy.
So what can people do to support the sixes in their lives?
Well, the True You Journal said the most important thing is to be patient
Okay.
and understanding.
Their anxieties might not make sense to us,
Right.
but they're real to them.
So validate their feelings,
Yeah.
but don't feed into the fears.
It's a tough balance.
It's about empowering them
Yeah.
to be more independent.
Encourage them to take care of themselves.
Set boundaries around the worry.
Remember, those anxieties might not always be logical.
Right.
So yeah, patience and empathy are key.
What are some of the good things about being in a relationship with a six?
Oh, there are a lot.
Okay, tell me.
Well, one of the best things is their loyalty.
Yeah.
They're the ones who will always have your back.
No matter what.
No matter what. They're also super dependable,
Okay.
responsible, and caring.
And thoughtful.
Yes, they pay attention to the needs of their loved ones.
They might not be flashy about it.
No, but they show their love through actions.
So, yeah, sixes can be great partners
They can?
when they feel secure.
Yes. When they feel safe and supported.
So let's shift gears again and talk about personal growth for sixes.
Yeah.
What can they do to thrive?
Well, one important thing is to build self-trust.
We've talked about that.
We have. It's a big one for sixes.
The Enneagram Institute reminded us that anxiety is normal.
It is.
Everyone feels it.
It's part of being human.
It's about learning to manage it.
They also said it's good to work on trusting others.
I bet that's tough.
It can be, but it's important for building connections. It starts with realizing that not everyone is out to get you.
Sometimes our fears tell us more about ourselves.
Yeah. Than about the other person.
The True You Journal said sixes need to own their power.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, they often feel like life is just happening to them,
Instead of realizing they have control.
which can make them feel helpless.
They also talked about self-fulfilling prophecies again.
Yeah, those patterns.
It's about recognizing them
Yeah.
and making different choices.
Shifting from fear and reactivity
Through empowerment.
and proactivity.
Exactly.
Both articles talked about healthy habits
The what?
for dealing with anxiety,
Oh, right.
like exercise, meditation,
Mm-hmm.
spending time in nature,
Being creative.
finding what works for you.
And making a routine.
It's not selfish.
It's self-care.
So for all the sixes out there,
Yeah.
you have a lot to offer.
You do.
Your loyalty, your
Mhm.
dedication,
Mhm.
your hard work,
All the things?
you're resourceful,
Yeah.
you're great at solving problems.
Mhm. And you can see those problems coming.
Yeah, before anyone else.
When you learn to channel your anxiety,
Yeah.
you can do amazing things.
Find what inspires you
Yeah.
and make a difference.
Be kind to yourself.
Yeah. Self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
And connect with your inner guidance.
Don't always look outside yourself.
Right. True security comes from within.
Explore your spirituality.
Okay.
Connect with nature.
Be creative.
Find what makes you feel whole.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, sixes have a lot of potential.
They do.
When they tap into their inner wisdom,
Yeah.
they can find strength and resilience.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the world of the sixes,
Mm.
let's focus on how they can use this knowledge
Yeah.
to really navigate their lives, more effectively.
Yeah. One of the biggest takeaways from both articles was about the environment. Like finding the right environment
Right.
that fosters a sense of security and stability for them.
And that goes for both personal and professional life, right?
Exactly. Both.
We talked about it before, but
Yeah.
it's worth repeating.
Yeah, for sure.
Sixes do well in situations where there's clear expectations.
Yeah, structure.
Right. Well-defined instructions.
Supportive people
supportive colleagues and friends.
Yeah. When they're in that chaos or unpredictability.
It's no good.
No, their anxiety goes through the roof.
So they have to be really mindful about the spaces they're in.
Pay attention to those triggers.
Right. Find the places that make you feel safe.
And another thing, building self-trust.
Yes.
So important for 6s.
They rely so much on validation from others.
Yeah, but real security has to come from within.
So how do you do that?
Well, it's about knowing you're worth believing in yourself.
Okay.
Both articles suggested practical things.
Like what?
Like mindfulness, challenging those negative thoughts, setting realistic expectations.
Being kind to yourself.
Yeah, and accepting that things won't always go as planned.
That can be a hard one.
It is for 6s.
Letting go of that need for control.
Yeah, but it's how we grow.
We've talked a lot about the 6's tendency to overthink.
Yeah.
Always thinking of the worst case scenario.
It can be exhausting.
It can be for everyone involved.
Yeah. So the articles talked about healthy coping mechanisms.
Okay, like what?
Exercise, meditation, spending time in nature.
Oh, yeah.
Doing something creative.
Like finding an outlet.
Exactly. Find what works for you.
Take care of yourself.
It's so important for 6s.
So let's talk about relationships again.
Yeah.
How can 6s use this Enneagram knowledge to make their relationship stronger?
Well, communication is huge.
Right? We talked about that.
We did. 6s often have trouble expressing their needs directly.
Yeah, they kind of bottle things up.
Yeah, or they're passive-aggressive.
Which just leads to more problems.
It does. So they need to learn to be more assertive.
Okay.
Talk about their fears and concerns in a healthy way.
And they have to be aware of that need for constant reassurance.
Yeah, it's okay to want validation.
Of course.
But they can't expect their partners to always be fixing things. It's about finding that balance between needing support and being independent.
Okay.
The articles also had advice for the people who love 6s.
What do they say?
Well, they said it's really important to set boundaries.
Okay.
Around what? Around the worry.
Right.
Give them space.
Okay.
But don't let it consume the relationship.
So support them.
Yeah.
But encourage their independence.
Exactly.
And remember that anxiety doesn't always make sense.
It doesn't.
So be patient. Be empathetic.
It goes a long way.
We've learned a lot about 6s today.
We have. It's been a great discussion.
They're motivated by this need for security and support.
Which comes from that fear of being alone.
Of being without guidance.
They're being lost.
And that fear shows up in all these different ways.
It does.
Anxiety, overthinking, that need for reassurance.
But we've also talked about their strength.
Yeah, they're so loyal.
So loyal.
Hardworking, responsible.
Real problem solvers.
They're always prepared.
Always thinking ahead.
And when they learn to manage that anxiety, they can do incredible things.
They can.
So if you're a 6 listening, embrace your strengths.
Yeah.
Build that self-trust.
You got this.
Find healthy ways to deal with your anxiety.
And you can live a really fulfilling life.
It's been great exploring this with you.
It has.
If you want to learn more,
check
out those resources we mentioned.
The Enneagram Institute.
And the True You Journal.
Lots of great info there.
This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Keep learning. Keep growing.
Keep diving deep.
Until next time.